I don't think I really need to do much to advertise the episode. I feel like Cowboys versus 49ers should be enough. New Sprint Right Option podcast starts right now.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners. Sprint Right Option podcast. It's like deja vu all over again. A year ago, not today, but a year ago and a week ago, we were talking Niners Cowboys in the playoffs. And here we are again, Niners Cowboys in the playoffs. I am Andrew Pasquini, joined as always by Jason Aponte. This is the Sprint Right Option podcast. I should say the podcast name out front. Jason Aponte, how are you doing out there in New Jersey? I heard Jersey's got an important football game on Saturday as well, huh?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty psyched for that. I'm going to actually go watch football with people, which is a new experience for me since Sundays are filled with me working and being here and all that other stuff. But before we get into Niners Cowboys, I just want to send a shout out to Rob Guerrera. Unfortunately, he was let go today, and I kind of want to clarify a little bit just because there's been some questions and misconceptions thrown around. Niners Nation, the site, Niners Nation Podcast Network, two separate things. And there was a mass layoff by Vox Media. This has nothing to do with Rob's work. Rob is incredible, one of the best guys. Obviously has given me a ton of opportunities. So I just want to send a shout out to him. The sports media business is is a cold world. But I wanted to, get rid of some misconceptions because I saw some stuff out there about like, well, they've hired too many people. They've done this. No, it has nothing to do with that. Vox Media made a decision across the board. They laid off 7% of their workers today. But I want to send my shout outs to a guy that is not only somebody I look up to in his content business, has given me a bunch of opportunities, but it's somebody I consider a friend. So Rob, if you're watching, man, thinking about you, man, I hope you and your family are good.
Yeah, shout out Stats. We definitely love you here on the Sprint Right Option podcast, a very important member of 49ers Twitter. It's a tough day, I would say, for 49ers Twitter and obviously for everybody who was laid off. So definitely thinking of Rob. Shout out Rob. And I'm sure he's somebody that definitely he's going to find himself back on his feet.
He'll be great.
Some 49ers content somewhere.
He's going to be great.
So we definitely want to shout out Rob. Jason, we're here. It's the playoffs, obviously. Playoffs last week, playoffs this week, playoffs the week after, obviously. It feels a little different this week, though. No disrespect to the Seattle Seahawks. Something feels different about the Dallas Cowboys. And there's probably a lot of different reasons why. I think one of the big reasons is this is definitely one of the tougher teams the 49ers have had to face in the past 2.5 months. Cowboys haven't had much of a tougher schedule as well. I know they've had the Eagles sprinkled in, so I'm not trying to take that away from the Niners or the Cowboys. It's just when I close my eyes and picture two teams playing football against each other, maybe it's because of the house I was born in, and obviously, Jason, I think you could speak a little bit to it, seeing a little more Niners football than I have. That's a nice way to say it, Jason. But Niners-Cowboy is definitely the matchup I close my eyes and see anytime I think of a generic football game. I know we touched on it a lot last year because, hey, that was the first time in 20 years that the Niners and Cowboys had met in the playoffs. Obviously, this is now the first time in 365 days. So I don't know how many thoughts we have on top of what we had last year. But Jason, what is the Niner-Cowboy rivalry? Let's get that out of the way because that was a conversation we had last year. I want to know what Jason Aponte thinks.
For sure, for me, it's personal. As a young 49ers fan, I had to sit through the Dallas Cowboys eliminating the 49ers 2 straight years in the NFC Championship with the 49ers finally breaking through. Funny enough, this is going to be the 9th time that they've met. And the first 3 times that the Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers met was in the 70s, 71, and 72. 70 and 71 was for the NFC Championship. The Dallas Cowboys won both, and they eliminated them in 72 in the divisional round. Funny enough, finally, they break through in 81, the birth of a dynasty. This is a big game not only for 49ers fans, but for the NFL. This is the 9th time that they have met. That's a historic number. And again, when you think of plays that shape the NFL, you cannot tell the story of the NFL without the Sprint Right Option play and Joe Montana to Dwight Clark. There is no way to tell the story of the NFL by leaving that out. So the NFL, again, is getting exactly what they want. But for me, this is incredibly personal, and it always is, no matter when we played them. There was a lull in between because there was 20 years between playoff matchups. But Terrell Owens running to the star. There's so many things. Like, it's literally littered with some of the best moments I can ever remember. And last year, it all came rushing back to me, even in 2020. Even in 2020, when Nick Mullins went into Arlington and he started, Andrew and I, when we first started this podcast, we did a long episode, not even just talking about the game because the game was inconsequential for the 49ers. We talked about the rivalry and what it meant to me. And I wrote an article today, and it was based around a poll result of who do 49er fans despise more, Seattle or Dallas? I was shocked to find out that 52% of 49er fans are 25 and under. I could not believe it. I could not believe that 52% of the people that watch and read all our stuff on Niners Nation are 25 and under, and they chose the Seattle Seahawks, especially given the fact that the Seattle Seahawks and the 49ers have only met 2 times in the playoffs, with them splitting both of those meetings. It's just, I think the way you feel about this rivalry and the way you feel about the Seattle Seahawks depends on where you were born and what year.
I'm 30, right? And I'm just outside that 25 number you threw out there. But in my mind, like, it's not even remotely close. Like, it is Niners Cowboys. That is the rivalry. Like, obviously the Niners Seahawks, that's a newer rivalry, and I think it's fresher in people's mind. But as I said, when I think of NFL rivalries, I probably think of 2. It's Niners Cowboys and it's Raiders Steelers. That's like the 2 big historic NFL rivalries. And Jason, you mentioned the 9th time these 2 teams have met in the postseason. That now is tied for the most common playoff matchup. I believe it was the Rams and Cowboys and the 49ers Packers. They have both met 9 times. Niners Cowboys meeting for the 9th time on Sunday, which tells you something about the Niners and Cowboys, considering that this is their 9th time facing each other. But, oh, by the way, they're also involved in the other 2 playoff matchups that have faced off 9 times. Every time they face in consecutive years in the postseason, it's gone on for a 3rd one. So if we want to talk 20, do we honestly forget 2023? Do we just want to preview next year's NFC Championship?
So
game
next
right
year's
now?
NFC Championship, I mean, Brock Purdy is going to be rolling in 15 and 2 rolling into the season. Not lost. He's the MVP coming off of a Super Bowl MVP. He's looking to go back for back-to-back championships. I think we should really start talking about the new dynasty, which is the San Francisco 49ers, if we're already doing it in the future.
And it's amazing. It's 2024 already, and Odell Beckham still hasn't signed with the Cowboys. Which is amazing. NorCal Dan, thank you for the donation. I'm 30 and it's Cowboys easy. Yeah, I was as a 30-year-old a little bit closer to the generation that thinks the Seahawks and Niners. I was surprised by that poll result. 52%, like 52% are wrong because it is Niners Cowboy. It is. I mean, for the longest time, near the end of games when they run the little like station identification commercial for the NFL, like, this is the product of the NFL. The last play that always closed that until recent years was Dwight Clark making the catch.
Yeah.
Like, it is the most iconic matchup. And last year, obviously one of the more iconic moments with Nickelodeon hosting it. It's just such a historic, iconic rivalry, and I'm so excited that we get to do it again, essentially. It's very exciting that we get to do it again.
And Andrew, if there was a logo like there was in the NBA for the NFL, it would be Dwight Clark jumping up in the air to catch a pass. That would be, no doubt in my mind, would be the NFL logo.
That's got to be. So Jason, we've gotten the historical aspect out of the way. Do we want to talk Sunday a little bit?
Yeah, why not? I mean, we've
Let's
talked
do it.
something.
I'm assuming that's why people are here, right? Like, they're here, like, I want to know what Andrew thinks about Dak Prescott. I want to start with what I think is maybe the biggest mismatch on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I think in terms of quality of opponent, this is the best team the Niners have faced since the Chiefs. I think in terms of star power, this is the best team the Niners have faced, because there's not many teams where, you could list Deebo Samuel, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Travis Ward, all these names. Not a lot of teams are going to have that same name brand value, except maybe Dallas. Dallas definitely has a lot of those big names that you think of. The biggest mismatch isn't on the field on Sunday. It's on the sidelines. And we saw it a little bit last year, especially near the end of the game when Mike McCarthy called a quarterback draw with 8 seconds to go and no timeouts. Kyle Shanahan against Mike McCarthy, and I think that's where I lean towards the Niners here. I think in terms of just overall, if we're just going Madden overall ratings, these 2 teams are very, very close. The biggest differentiator, I think, between these two teams is Kyle Shanahan and Mike McCarthy. And Jason, I think you're probably somewhere close in that thought as well.
Yeah, the chess match that's going to be going on, I think, is less between McCarthy. It's going to be McCarthy against his own instincts to blow the clock and Kyle Shanahan against Dan Quinn. But you know what's funny is I think a lot of people have been blinded by what has happened with the Dallas Cowboys in Tampa. I watched that game again. And you know what? No disrespect. The Cowboys, I think they played a great game. But if you watch that game, there's guys running wide open all over the field, and there was a certain 12 that was not delivering the ball. I have a hard time really looking at what Dallas does on defense and how much, again, I think we have, well, you know what? It's time to lay it out there. The last 6 weeks, 13 through 18, the Dallas Cowboys allowed the 6th most passing yards and touchdowns in the NFL. And let's go down this murderer's row of opponents. The Indianapolis Colts with Matt Ryan, Houston with Davis Mills and Jeff Driscoll, Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence, they're good, Philadelphia with Gardner Minshew, and Washington with Sam Howell.
Yes.
They've also, in those games, given up. Oh, no, wait. And did I forget? Tennessee with Joshua Dobbs. Did I forget? Yes. Did I forget? And in those games, 100 on the ground to Houston, 192 on the ground to the Jaguars, almost 100 on the ground to Tennessee without Derrick Henry, 156 yards on the ground to Jarrett Patterson, not Antonio Gibson, not Brian Robinson. When you look at overall year numbers, you say, man, they've had a really good year. When you look at where they are now, please do not get nervous about the running game being stopped because Tampa stops themselves with the run.
Yes.
They stop themselves with the run. So a lot of this confidence that is kind of coming out and people are like, oh, you don't want to play the Cowboys. And it's so funny because Cowboy fans love to throw this back at us because, yeah, now I'm getting in my bag. Oh, you almost lost to the Raiders. Well, you almost lost to the Texans. You almost lost to the Titans. You lost to Washington. Jacksonville washed you. So if we're going to talk about almost losses, Dallas has been on the side of almost losses against teams that are quite inferior. Joshua Dobbs, for God's sakes, or this is where we're at. Like at this point, for me, I am looking at a team that is far too confident in themselves and forgets where they've been, while looking aside from a team that literally is putting up 35 points regardless of the opponent. It doesn't matter who's on the field at this point, and they still haven't even played their best game. There's my rant.
I'm so happy you mentioned the pass game and then dipped right into the Cowboys run defense as well, because that's what I focused on. 4 of their last 6 regular season games, they allowed at least 100 yards on the ground or more. And 11 of their 17 games this season in the regular season, they allowed 100 or more rushing yards. In 6 of those 11, they allowed 150 or more rushing yards. And the only the thing is, Tampa Bay 52 rushing yards against the Cowboys on Monday. They ran the ball 12 times in the entire game. Kyle Shanahan might run the ball 12 times in the first quarter. This is where I think I mentioned McCarthy versus Shanahan. I think this, and I need to say this politely because we somehow turned this into a negative on Garoppolo, but this might be Brock Purdy's 2019 against the Packers. Where the not throwing the ball 8 times, I'm not saying throwing the ball 8 times. I'm just saying I think Shanahan, and I'm over exaggerating a little bit as well. I think Shanahan's going to run the shit out of the ball. I think Purdy might be closer somewhere to 20 throws, but I'm not going to say 8. That's the easiest comparison I can make, Jay. That's why I said let me finish. But I think this is going to be a run heavy game. Christian McCaffrey, he's had 12 carries. I think it was like in 8 of his 11 games with the Niners. Like the Niners are going to run the ball so much against Dallas. I think that's going to be where the game really is different between the two teams.
Dallas is going to come out. They're going to load their front. They're going to be aggressive. Brock's going to throw it over their head. They're going to back up, and then they're going to bludgeon them. This is almost like cut, rinse, repeat, all of these things. Dallas is going to try their damnedest. Dan Quinn's actually a really good defensive coordinator.
Yes, he is.
He's going to think of ways to try to slow down the run. Okay. We'll see your 7 and 8 loaded fronts, your 8-man loaded fronts. Cool, you got 3 on the back end. Godspeed out of 21 personnel trying to guard all of these guys. Godspeed having, you know what, this is what's going to come down to? This is going to be a masterclass in screen passes to Deebo Samuel and him literally running through 7. 7 wants to play flag football. He does not want to tackle. So what you do is when they load the front, you throw the ball. And Kyle Shanahan has more confidence than ever in Brock Purdy to execute that. As you noticed in Seattle, didn't exactly start the way that you wanted to, but you have to do that. Once you back them off and now they have to play on pass, God help you. The run game is going to gash you. I mean, for God's sakes, last season, this 49ers team with Elijah Mitchell ran for 193 rushing yards, and it didn't do anything special. They didn't, go out and say, hey, we're going to go neutralize Micah Parsons. We're just going to go wipe him out of the game. They literally did normal things. They ran their offense in that way. Kyle has been so creative now in the way that he's putting out 21 personnel. God help you. Again, as I think more and more about this game, as I get closer and closer to this game, anyone who says Dallas will stack the box and they'll stuff the run, God help you for believing that. Either you're a moron or a troll, because that'll never happen, and it can't happen. They don't have the personnel. They don't have the scheme to do it, and the 49ers have something for all of that because they have too much on paper with playmakers. They're scoring 35 points a game, and now all of a sudden you're expecting me to believe a team that allowed 30-something points to the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Philadelphia Eagles with Gardner Minshew and allowed Sam Howell to destroy them is now all of a sudden going to transform into this defense that now we need to be afraid of. The more and more you think about this game, the more and more it sounds like the 49ers are going to win by 2 scores. Spoiler alert, that's my prediction.
Yeah, and you mentioned 21 personnel as well, Jason. It's so funny too, because when you think of it, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, all that fun stuff. But the way the Niners do it, the 2 running backs and 1 tight end, it'll be Kittle as the tight end, Juszczyk and McCaffrey on some plays. But then on another play, it'll be Juszczyk as the tight end, Debo is the running back, McCaffrey is the fullback. You never know where these players are going to be. Michael, thank you very much for the donation. This game just hits different because it is different. We don't like them and they don't like us. Let's get Levi's rocking. Let's fucking go. I think that's the simplest way to put that. Yes, absolutely. That's what this is. But you mentioned the 21 personnel. The one thing I have a bit of a concern just talking about the Cowboys defense is how Purdy's going to deal with the Cowboys pass defense, which I know you mentioned. It's given up a lot of yards the past few weeks. The one thing they're pretty good at is forcing turnovers. The Cowboys have forced, I believe, either the most or second most turnovers. The most. Niners are the second most. That's where a little bit of my concerns come in with the Cowboys defense. And also, this is easily going to be the best pass rush Brock Purdy has faced this season. I know Max Crosby with the Raiders was a tough one, but as a whole unit, this Cowboys pass rush is a little concerning. I think this is where we're really going to get to see Brock Purdy's mobility shine. I think he's going to be under pressure, but he's not afraid to roll out. The man is addicted to rolling out to his left. Let's just be honest. He loves that little spin around and run towards the left sideline move. He might have to do it on some instances, but he's shown he's not afraid to do it, which is why I think the Cowboys defense will be able to get some pressure on Brock Purdy, but I don't know how many times they're actually going to get to him because he seems to have a very quick internal clock to get out of the pocket, and he's going to need that against the Cowboys.
Yeah, and look, again, Trent Williams plays. He's existing. Mike McGlinchey has been playing.
No Tom Compton this time.
Yeah, I know you guys don't like to hear this. Mike McGlinchey's been playing well as well, too. Yes. I looked at the numbers. Micah Parsons, for all this talk about him being moved around, he's just been on the edge. I think it's about 800 snaps.
Yep. And it's one-sided too, because he plays against the left tackle. I have the numbers as the right outside linebacker, which is against the left side of the offense, 516 snaps against the right tackle, the left outside linebacker spot, 278. So Cook this guy who's trolling. So let's give the troll the business real quick, because if you're gonna troll, at least somewhat come close to being close to it. Say those numbers again of where Parsons lined up, because when I looked at the numbers and I watched the film, that man primarily just lines up as edge. Say it one more time for the people in the back. So 516 as the right outside linebacker, which would be Trent Williams' side of the offense. 278 against as the left outside linebacker, which would be against Mike McGlinchey. And that is a conversation I wanted to have. I don't think they're going to change it up because obviously no disrespect to Mike McGlinchey because he's been playing lights out, Obviously, there's one side you want to take advantage of against the Niners offense. The side that doesn't have Trent. They could have Joe Staley on the other side, and I'd probably pick Joe Staley still because I don't want to face Trent Williams. But he played specifically Micah Parsons, just so we don't lose who the he is. Micah Parsons played 18 snaps against the right side of the offense last week. That is the most he's played since week 13. And even before that, it was the most he's played since week 7.
Hold on. And Andrew, hold on. Parsons will line up everywhere. Yeah, put that man in coverage and let him try to cover George Kittle. God help you. Please let that man move around, and please do not put him on the edge. You sound dumb. You sound really fucking dumb. Like, if you're going to come in here and try to troll, at least be somewhat clear. At least make it seem like you're somewhat understanding of the game. Allow that man to be Mike linebacker. Allow him to get stuck in coverage against George Kittle or Kyle Juszczyk. Please. I hope Dallas is that dumb. If Dallas is smart, you do exactly what you've done all year. Allow that man to cook on the edge. I can't believe you people are that stupid, man. I really can't.
I'm pulling it up right now. 802 snaps on the defensive line this season for Mr. Parsons, 186 in the box. So he's either going to be on one side, on the outside, and he's the one player I'm obviously worried about. But the depth beyond that, they have some pretty good names. Obviously, Micah Parsons.
Andrew, say where he lined up again, please. One more time, please, Andrew. I'm just going to step aside real quick. I want you to cook.
802 snaps on the defensive line, 186 in the box. It's not as one-sided as you think it would be. I mean, I could even pull up the numbers. He's probably going to face Trent Williams more than he's going to face Mike McGlinchey. My concern where it comes down is the depth for them, right? Dorrance Armstrong, 8.5 sacks. DeMarcus Lawrence, 6 sacks. He's having a bit of a resurgence this season. And Dante Fowler as well. They got a lot of depth on this defensive line. So even if it is Parsons against Trent Williams, it's not like Mike McGlinchey's going to have a day off on the other side. So the pass rush does concern me a little bit for Dallas. But I think that's where the concerns stop for me on the defense. Yeah. And we've talked about it before, Jason. Defensive lines have the full capability to take control of a game. We mentioned it with the Chiefs a couple of years ago. We mentioned it with the Washington football team. So, obviously it's a concern in terms of the secondary. They might be missing Curse, which is a big loss. Diggs has been not as opportunistic as he was last year. Not as many interceptions where the coverage issues have come up again. In terms of defense, I think the Niners offense will be fine against Dallas as long as the pass rushers do not create pressures.
Right. And look, let's be clear. Pass rushers can wreck games. They can destroy everything. And so I'm more just trying to disparage this notion that all of a sudden Micah Parsons is this Swiss Army knife. Oh, play him in the box, play him in coverage. Yeah, put him in coverage. Yeah, put him in coverage, please. Like Kyle Shanahan, please put him in coverage. But then
he has 7 snaps in the slot corner this year.
Yeah.
Plays everywhere.
Oh my God. He plays everywhere. Like LT.
One snap at the wide corner.
Lawrence Taylor, the famed slot corner, right? Oh my God. So what I'm saying is this. After that, Leighton Vander Esch is sitting there waiting to be picked on, waiting for him to get lined up against George Kittle, right? Cool. You maybe want to take that away? Dude, make Trevon Diggs tackle. Debo will run through him. I watched this man, Rachaad White caught a pass. I watched this man, Trevon Diggs, run to the sideline, run around him, and try to tackle him from behind because that man does not want to tackle, right? There's so much about this team that swears they're physical. They're always trying to tell you, we're physical, we're different. They made us physical. Nobody can make you physical. You're not like that. You are trying to talk yourself into it. That's what Cowboy fans are trying to tell themselves every single day. They're looking themselves in the mirror right now and pointing and saying, we won't be bullied. You will be bullied because you're not like that. You're not like that, and you haven't been like that, and nothing about what you just done this week to the Tampa Bay Bucks makes you like that at this point. I'm tired of this shit, man.
I guess the best way to put it in Silverado, Kev, thank you for that. I love that name, by the way.
Javon Curse is also coming back for this game, too. Javon Curse, famed Tennessee Titan edge rusher, is coming back. It's J-Ron Curse, you dipshit. Go.
I feel Parsons will cancel himself out being hell-bent on getting pressure sacks, as Kyle Shanahan will plan for that. This will come down to coaching execution. We do us, we in. It's about us, not them. And thank you for the donation. That's exactly what it is. It's obviously, the skill players are very even, I think, on both sides of the ball for both teams, but it comes down to coaching and execution. And who do you trust more to coach? Put together a good game.
And look, shout out to Kev, man. Make sure you guys subscribe to his podcast, Real Talk Niner Talk. There's things that you're talking about, like in this scheme, that again, you don't have to key in on Micah Parsons. You don't have to and it's not me disrespecting Micah Parsons.
No,
Andrew, I did it earlier, and everybody laughed at me about a full breakdown. Do you wanna see some stuff real quick? Do you want to see at least one little play? So
I would love to see tape.
Okay.
I can talk while you're pulling it up if you need a second, Jason Ponte.
Yeah.
Listen, my thing is, as Jason mentioned last year, the Niners ran for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. There's a lot of things to consider. Elijah Mitchell was their number 1 running back last year. He's now their number 2. Everybody's pushed down because Christian McCaffrey. And then Tom Compton versus Mike McGlinchey. I know people really liked Tom Compton last year. He's not Mike McGlinchey. I think this Niners offensive line, I really think this is going to be essentially Kyle Shanahan's wet dream. I think he's going to run the ball as much as he can and then throw it when he needs to. Obviously, not 8 throws. Brock Purdy's going to have more throws than that, Jason. I promise you that. But I really think this is the type of game where Kyle Shanahan is going to love it. He's going to be able to run the ball as much as he can.
Let me get this overlay out of here real quick. And Andrew, I'm just gonna. All right, so just let me know if you can see.
I see.
You can see what I'm doing.
Perfectly fine. Here we go.
Perfect. Okay, guys. Let me pull this down real fast. Okay, look. So here's Micah Parsons, right? I want to show you something in terms of everybody's always talking about why is Kyle Shanahan a genius, right? Oh, well, it's these imaginative plays. No, it's about using your defensive rules against you and using your eyes against you, okay? So you see right here, you see George Kittle, you see 94, you see Juwan Jennings, you see 26, you see 11. Okay, so what George Kittle's going to do here is he's going to take a half a step towards 94, right, to make it seem like he's blocking. Daniel Brunskill is going to pull into the C gap. Micah Parsons reads this as he needs to take care of the C gap because that is his responsibility. When you see the puller, he's reading his keys. Micah Parsons does nothing wrong here. Micah Parsons is not bad here in any way. He is reading his keys, but I want to show you why this is a problem and why this is something that Kyle Shanahan knows what Dan Quinn's keys are, and he knows how to pick on what you know about defenses. Ready? So Deebo Samuel goes in motion. Watch 26 and 11. They're already moving in the wrong direction. This play's coming this way. Spoiler alert. They're already moving in the wrong direction. That's 2 spots that way. Okay. So you see George Kittle here. I'm going to slow it down. George Kittle takes a step. You see that step, and he moves like he's running a route. That's that step to show you 94 thinks he's getting blocked. Here comes Daniel Brunskill, right? Through the C gap, okay? Brunskill's going to hold that. Boom. Now, look, Micah Parsons sees the C gap, and he's like, oh, I got it. Well, guess who's coming to your ear hole? George Kittle just wiped you out of the play, bud. And look at your boy Trevon Diggs, not wanting to tackle, barely letting Elijah Mitchell get through. Again, I want to show you from this side right here because it's more beautiful. Right there, Deebo Samuel, you see the steps? 26 and 11, you're already too far out of the play, and you're already now chasing. 94, you think 85's coming? Nope. Here comes Daniel Brunskill. You're washed right there. Now, look, Micah Parsons has eyes on Elijah Mitchell. He's playing his keys right. He's doing everything right. Get out of the way now, and now you can get behind George Kittle, and obviously Juwan Jennings misses the block early, but he seals it right there. Again, what we're talking about is nothing special. We're not trying to tell you that Kyle Shanahan's going to all of a sudden come into some sort of innovative stuff. This is literally him understanding Dan Quinn's scheme and knowing how to use those keys that Micah Parsons is playing right there, doing the right thing. He did the right thing the entire time. Did the right thing. He was right. He was reading it. The C gap's his, but there is something else coming for you. This is what it is. When they ran for 193 last year, they didn't come out saying we're going to take out Micah Parsons. We're going to wipe him out of the game. You are in the way, and you're going to get wiped out. We're just using what you know about whatever you think you're seeing against you, and that's what makes Kyle Shanahan special, man.
And that's why the pre-snap motions are so important, too, for the 49ers offense. It gets the defense moving one way, they go another. And sometimes they'll even go with the grain of the movement because they set it up so well. So, listen, again, Dallas, we're not trying to take anything away from Dallas's defense. They've been a fine unit all year.
Yeah, 22nd in the league in rushing yards allowed. They're fine. They're great.
Yeah,
they're
exactly. The run game is where it gets a little concerning.
A fine defense. 22nd in the league. A fine.
I was trying to play it. I was playing it down the middle. Jason called me out. Now I feel awkward, but that's okay. I love feeling awkward.
It's not you.
Jason, let's flip it over now. Let's talk Niners defense against the Cowboys offense. And I really don't have any other place to say this, so I'm going to start with this. I saw this tweet have you seen Ezekiel Elliott's last 3 games?
Yeah, what does he have? Like 3 carries for 21 yards and 2 touchdowns?
His last 3 games, 40 rush attempts, 74 yards, 1.85 yards per attempt.
Tony Pollard is much better.
Tony Pollard's much better, and he's the guy I'm concerned about in the Cowboys run game. I had nowhere else to put that stat, so I just threw it out there. The one thing I do want to mention, I'm very curious. I think this is the one I'm most interested in. Is we know the concerns about the Niners secondary. We've talked about it quite a bit on this podcast. Dak Prescott, he's a fine NFL quarterback. He's turned the ball over a lot, though. I don't know if you've heard, Jason, 15 interceptions in 12 games. That's not great. What do you think is the first one to break in your mind? Do you think the Niners secondary struggles against CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup? Or do you think it kind of plays into their hand against a quarterback who turns the ball over quite a bit, and maybe aggressiveness will come back and maybe they'll be able to force a couple interceptions here and there?
I like Michael Gallup a lot. I just think it's clear that he's not all the way back from his injury at this point. I think that he's very good. And I think that, he was a guy that unfortunately when he got injured, he cost himself a lot of money. And I thought that he would go somewhere else. But I think the bigger concern comes within Dalton Schultz. Just because Dalton Schultz has 64 receptions, 34 have been on linebackers. That means Drake Greenlaw, Fred Warner, you're up. And I did some digging. You know who's been targeted the most on this team?
Who?
Drake Greenlaw 100 times. 100 times. But what's funny is he's been targeted coverage snaps per target. His coverage snaps per target are 5.9. Fred Warner's coverage snaps per target are 10.4. So if you notice, and then you watch Monday's game, 4 of Schultz's catches were against Levante David and Devin White. I think Michael Gallup's a fine receiver. I actually have a very big sore spot for T.Y. Hilton. He's one of my favorite receivers of all time. I love Ghost. But he's at the tail end of his career. Gallup doesn't necessarily look like the guy that he should be. I think the world of him. And CeeDee Lamb is CeeDee Lamb. I don't think that you're going to slow CeeDee Lamb down.
No.
I think he moves around too much. Ward's not going to follow him. CeeDee's going to get his. I don't think you can talk about slowing down CeeDee Lamb in that way. But I really think that there needs to be a point of emphasis to how Dalton Schultz gets up the seam and who's going to cover him. So Drake Greenlaw, Fred Warner, I'm looking at you guys like this is the game where if you can slow that down and turn them fairly more one-dimensional, you're looking at more advantages towards the 49ers. So look, Dak threw a lot of interceptions. Dak was great on Monday. Dak was great. He looked amazing in that game. That defense looked overmatched. They were on the field too long. They couldn't sustain drives, all those things. I don't suspect that the 49ers are going to be in that fashion. You can get your way for a quarter or two, but there's no way you're going to get 4 quarters of that against the San Francisco 49ers. My question is, can the Dallas Cowboys defense hold down the San Francisco 49ers offense for 4 quarters? And the answer is no. The answer is no. The levee's going to break. If it starts slow or starts fast, there's no way that Dallas is going to be able to slow them down for an entire game. It just doesn't happen.
And that's kind of my thing is especially in comparison to beating the Buccaneers last week, is Tampa Bay's offense has been so bad. It's done this slow start thing for all season to a point where I thought maybe Brady was going to make the comeback happen in the third quarter. But I don't think the Niners offense has that slow start in them. I know last week it was a little bit of a slow start because of Purdy's slow start, but you saw it's not like Dallas is going to be able to do what they did last week against Tampa and force multiple 3-and-outs in a row, score a touchdown, force a 3-and-out, score a touchdown. I don't think that the Cowboys defense can do that to the Niners offense. And that's where it comes in. Yes, this Cowboys offense has all the firepower in the world. It has good places. Dalton Schultz, CeeDee Lamb, not going to stop CeeDee Lamb, as you mentioned. The question is can they keep up with the Niners offense? Because they didn't have to keep up with the Buccaneers offense last week. Nobody has to keep up with the Buccaneers offense.
Oh, here we go. Left hand up.
Shout out Jared, our Commanders fan here, interacting with Falcon chat stream is a deciding factor.
Jared, let them know, man. This defense is talking about slowing down the high-powered 49ers offense. And Sam Howell was cooking them boys, and so was Jared Patterson. Like, what happened? Yeah. And they needed to win that game. What happened?
So I don't know, man. I think this is going to be a close game. I do. I think both teams are too good for it. I just, in the simulations I've ran in my head, I know people love the 90 out of 100 times they play each other. I do 75 out of 100. I think the Niners beat the Cowboys here, especially in Santa Clara. I'm an old school mind in terms of running game, being able to run the ball, control the clock, things like that. The Niners do that way better than the Cowboys. It's kind of like the Seattle game last week is, yeah, both teams can kind of run the ball well. I know Zeke's not great, but Tony Pollard's a threat. But when it comes down to it, it's the Niners' really good run offense against the Cowboys' poor run defense. And then on the other side, it's the Cowboys' decent run game against the Niners' really good run defense. And that's where I think it's at. If that does that make sense?
No, it does. And you know what? Look, I want to give the Cowboys credit because I do think they are an improved team from last year. I think their offensive line is improved. I think their run game is better. I think they've taken a step back in weapons because Gallup is injured and he isn't exactly the same guy. I think Dak hasn't played to his standards. I think he would tell you that. But the question you need to ask yourself is last year's Dallas team more improved than this year's 49ers team, which was already better than them last year? And I think the answer is a resounding no. The 49ers are healthy in this game. Nick Bosa didn't even play in that game, basically. He was out in the first half. Fred Warner missed a half in that game as well, too. It's just you start to look up and down at the matchups. You start to look at the health. You start to look at the way teams have been playing. Cool. The 49ers defense has cooled off a bit. I understand that. I think Dallas is going to be able to score points. I'm not predicting a shutout here or anything like that. I think Dallas is too good for that. They have too many weapons. But if you're looking at the last few weeks, what on earth makes you believe that the Cowboys have this advantage to beat the 49ers other than the fact that you root for the Cowboys? Other than the fact that you are a Cowboys fan? If you can objectively look at yourself and say that this is an uphill battle and you'd be lucky to walk away with this win, then I cannot take your opinion seriously. I really can't. I don't know why all of a sudden Monday's victory against a team that the 49ers absolutely beat the dog shit out of is now all of a sudden the reason that the Dallas Cowboys are the team you don't want to face. We've done this before. I've seen this act. It was the Green Bay Packers 2 weeks ago. Now all of a sudden it's the Dallas Cowboys. Can you stop telling me about the flavor of a week and show me the longer sample size that matters more and the actual matchups that matter more? And it's the San Francisco 49ers. It's not particularly close. So if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan and you're watching this and you're saying, we're definitely going to win, cool. Your confidence is out of here misguided, and that's fine. You root for your team, do what you want. But don't come to us when you lose and say, well, you know, we did this and we lost because of it. You lost because the team in front of you is better in nearly every single fashion, aside from a few positions. Coaching is better. The roster is better. The offense is better. The defense is better. I don't know how we can. The special teams is better. I mean, your fucking kicker can't even make an extra point now. And here we are talking about, like, it's getting to a point where we've done a whole week of the analysis. I've written every single day about this. I've watched every single game film that I can. I've looked at every single number. I don't understand how this is all of a sudden now turned into a game where the 49ers, even with Brock Purdy, is now, oh, you need to watch out. Why do the 49ers have to watch out exactly? I really don't get it. Someone has to explain it to me. Now I'm a homer. You lost to Washington. You barely beat Houston. Jacksonville washed you. You barely beat Philly with Gardner Minshew. You beat the Indianapolis Colts. That's cool. Dog, you have a worse playoff record. You have a worse record against playoff teams than the San Francisco 49ers, G-Ball. And it's a stupid-ass name, by the way, too.
Whoa, hey, let's not go after the name. G-Ball did ask about the weather. I think the weather's going to be fine in Santa Clara. I think it's sunny. If anything, 49ers throwback, thank you for the donation. Hey, Jason, appreciate your shows. I trust Kyle Shanahan will neutralize that Cowboys defensive line. I trust Kyle Shanahan more than McCarthy. And yeah, I mean, that's more or less what happened last year, right? I know, like the thing is the Cowboys, I think it was 5 sacks last year against the Niners. Is that the number? I could be wrong. I could be misremembering that. I do think, whether I'm right or wrong, it doesn't matter because it's irrelevant to the point, is Brock Purdy's more mobile than Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think that's going to help deal with this pass rush as well. I'm pulling up the sack numbers right now. Dallas was sacked. No, the Niners didn't give up a sack last year. So, I don't know. My thing is I think this game goes one of 3 ways, and we're kind of leaning into predictions at this point anyways. This game goes one of 3 ways. The Niners win in a close
win, loss, or tie.
well, no ties. The Niners win, and obviously you're making fun of me, but like I'm gonna say something even more obvious. So like, hey, here we go.
No, I was just saying that just to be.
Yeah.
I was just trying to take the tension off it because I've been
The
like
Niners,
a little red in the face and all that shit.
Oh, hey man, it's Cowboys week. That's what's fun about
I know.
this. It's the rivalry.
I know.
Niners winning a close one, Cowboys win a close one, or the Niners blow the shit out of the Cowboys. I don't see a world where the Cowboys blow out the Niners. I think the only way the Cowboys win is in a close one, but I could see the Niners winning either a close one or absolutely blowing them out because that's what we've seen the Niners do. And no disrespect to Dallas, I just think the Niners are that much better.
And the doomsday scenario for the 49ers is all of a sudden if Brock Purdy turns into a pumpkin and they turn the ball over and they play mistake-filled football, that's just not something that feels likely. Is it in the range of possibilities? Sure. But, I mean, anything can happen in the playoffs. Look, I respect Micah Parsons. I think he's a hell of a player. I know we joke a lot on here, man. He can wreck a game. DeMarcus Lawrence has been great. They have the guys up front that can make things uncomfortable. But what the Dallas really needs in this game is for the defense to completely come apart, for them to all of a sudden just be able to operate in the fashion that they were on Monday night, which I don't think can happen, and that Brock Purdy just all of a sudden turns into a pumpkin and just starts throwing interceptions to ghosts. I mean, is it possible? Sure. Is it likely? No. Like, again, like Dallas needs too many things to go wrong for the 49ers for them to win, as opposed to Dallas can come out and play their best game. If the 49ers come out and play their best game, the 49ers still walk out winning. So it's a little bit different when we talk about what these teams need to go right. If the 49ers just play their game, they're going to walk out with the win.
Yeah, exactly. Jason, Hoops revenge game. I looked at the roster. I couldn't find an Igniter, but I will say.
Oh, you know who it is.
Well, I have one. I'll let you get to yours. Who's yours first?
Well, it's Kyle and Dan. It's Kyle and Dan, right? Like, both of them are trying to pass off the stink of the Super Bowl loss in Atlanta to each other. You know, I've never seen an offensive coordinator take more blame for a loss than Kyle Shanahan ever, especially when the head coach is actually a defensive guy and the defensive team couldn't get a stop during the game at all. So it's Kyle and Dan. And, you know, he was asked about it and he had nothing but glowing things to say about Dan Quinn. He said that, you know, even though I alluded to the fact that Kyle understands Dan Quinn's keys, what he teaches, all those things, he did speak to the fact that he said, you know, it's matchup to matchup. He's done a great job adjusting. He's a great defensive coordinator. And Dan Quinn is. He really is, man. And again, like, it's easy to be objective. He is a very good defensive coordinator. But it's Kyle and Dan, man. Like, it's Kyle trying to wash the stink off of people throwing that Super Bowl loss on him. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen an offensive coordinator take more shit for a loss. Like, it's almost like Dan Quinn wasn't even the head coach. You might as well have just made Kyle the head coach at this point if you're going to keep doing that.
I've never understood how Kyle's gotten all the flack for 20, because part of blowing a 27-3 lead is not only not holding on to it, but it's like allowing the points as well. No, I was going to say Mike McCarthy, just for how the game ended last season. And okay. I'm sure that he's had that play stick in his head multiple times. I think it would be objectively the funniest thing ever if the game ended in the same way. Obviously, I don't think I want that because it would be a close game. It'd be very stressful on my health and Jason's health and a lot of people's health. But I think that'd be really funny if like
I thought that was really funny in the press conference too. That Kyle said that he was like, yeah, you know, we won the game, but I didn't really like how it ended at the end. There, it was a little too close. You know, and then again, you know, he was talking about at the end they made mistakes. That game should have been put away way earlier last year. That score should have never gotten that close. But again, Dallas needed the 49ers to make mistakes and play that way for them to even sniff that game. And again, Dallas has improved. They have. I wholeheartedly agree that they've improved, especially in the areas that you need to. But the 49ers were already better and they're improved markedly. I'm just going to stand on that. I'm going to continue to stand on that.
Yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to. I think both teams are improved from last year. It's just the Niners are that much better because, I mean, even to just the star power name of Christian McCaffrey. I mean, Dallas has improved, but like who have they – I'm trying to think, make sure I'm not wrong here, but like it's not like they've added anybody compared to last year, at least a big name. I know Jason Peters was an addition for them, but he's not playing.
He's 40 years old.
And he's also 40. He's still very good, but he's 40. So yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. Is I think the Niners have just improved so much more than Dallas compared to last year. Jason, I think that's it. I think that brings us to predictions, what we think. Before we get to that, 218 people here. If you're new, be sure to subscribe to the Sprint Right Option podcast. Anywhere you get your podcasts at, Apple, Spotify. I don't know why I always struggle remembering the names of the places we post our podcasts. And it's just
wherever
the
you
same
get your
names.
audio podcasts.
Wherever you get your audio podcasts is where you can find us. Make sure to like this video. We love each and every one of you. I know we go at some of you, but we love you all because you're commenting and you're partaking in the conversation. 27-20 49ers win. I think it's going to be a close game. I think I'm leaning towards it being a closer game than a Niners blowout. I'm going to say 27-20. I think it's not going to be as stressful as last year, but I guess with me putting it in a 7-point game is going to make it stressful. I could see it being like the Niners up 27-13 late. Dallas goes down and scores, and Niners get the ball back and just eat the clock. I'm going to go 27-20 Niners. They move on to the NFC Championship game. And I just realized probably should have picked the other games before we picked the Niner game, but we'll pick the Niner game and now pick the other games after. So Niners, who you got?
I'm going to go against the grain. I got a 31-17. I think this is an absolute show. I think this is an absolute show from Kyle Shanahan. He's talked all week about showing the 49ers all of the moments of the 49ers-Cowboys rivalry and what they're a part of. Kyle Shanahan said that, and no one's going to like this, but I thought it was the greatest thing ever. David Lombardi just tweeted it, that when he moved to the Bay Area when he was 6 years old, the 49ers were the Yankees of football. That is my motherfucking coach. Let's go, my boy. And yeah, he realizes what's in front of him. He knows where he can pick on his defense. I think they have too much firepower. I think right now that death lineup that everybody is breaking down, from Orlovsky to Mina Kimes to everybody, when you look at the way that they line up, it's almost impossible. The only way the 49ers blow this game is if they lose themselves and they play outside of themselves. I've got this as a Kyle Shanahan masterclass, and we will see you next week, whoever the NFC opponent is.
There it is. Jason, let's talk about that, because there are 3 other games this week. And we made predictions last week, and I think I finished 5-1. Jason, I think you finished 4-2 because you doubted my Jaguars. But yeah, no. So
Jaguars.
First game of the weekend, Saturday morning, we're going to open up with Jacksonville Jaguars, my Jaguars,
Chiefs,
apparently, against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Jason, I got a stat that's going to change your mind.
No, it's not.
Trevor Lawrence has never lost on a Saturday.
Don't care.
Trevor Lawrence has never lost on a Saturday.
That stat is going to end.
Well, so then Jason, let me ask you this. I have one upset pick in my mind. You obviously, I think you know which one's which. Which one should I take? Which one should be my upset pick? The Jaguars or
Giants.
the Giants? Okay, then I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one. I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one because the Chiefs are better than the Jaguars. But just remember, if Jacksonville wins, I said Trevor Lawrence has never lost on Saturday. So just remember that fact.
And you know what? After last week, you deserve all the credit, man. So don't listen to me, man. You should listen to the guy who's actually really good at this.
The second game on Saturday, I believe that is Giants-Eagles. I spoiled my pick. I'm going to go Giants. There's my upset pick for the weekend. Maybe it's just me hoping it happens because I don't want to play the Eagles because the Eagles seem really scary. And I love the Niners. I love my Niners. I love the logo, everything about them. I don't want to play the Eagles. The Eagles scare me a little bit, so I'm going to pick the Giants. I'm going to pick with my heart and not my brain.
I'm gonna go Eagles, man. I have too much faith in what they have. They're too good offensively. They're too good offensively. They're too good defensively. They don't really have holes. I understand that. And this is gonna be a very close game. Like the Eagles are gonna win at the gun. Like they're not gonna blow out the Giants at all. Like the Giants are for real. The Giants, Brian Daboll, they deserve all the credit. They almost beat the Eagles with backups. I think that Jalen Hurts was a little bit rusty. Who knows how healthy he is? I think that's gonna play a big part into it. But I have a hard time seeing how Philly doesn't win this game in Philly, man. I really do. So I'm going to go Eagles here.
And then the Sunday, I think it's afternoon game, noon on the West Coast, 3 o'clock East Coast, the Cincinnati Bengals against the Buffalo Bills. Dare I say, no one circles the wagons like the Cincinnati Bengals. I got the Bengals beating the Bills. Their offensive firepower scares me quite a bit. I think that's going to be the difference in this game. Josh Allen's going to make a few mistakes like he did last week. It's just the Bengals are a little bit better than the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson. Jason, who you got? And then we'll take this. I think I'm taking the easy way out. I'm going to take the Bills, man. Okay. I think this is going to be a really tough game. Obviously last week shouldn't really give you an indication of where the Bengals are. I think the Bengals have been playing phenomenal football. Again, division games are weird. If Lamar Jackson played in that game, who knows what really would have happened. So, I mean, if you look at it that way, you would think, oh, the Bengals are right for the picking. But then you look at the Bills and they play the Dolphins as well, too. That was a division game. Something about the DeMar Hamlin thing, they're playing again, Bengals. It's hard for me to go against the narrative and the storyline. So I've got the Bills, and you've got to keep the Berman Bowl on track. Yeah, and you know DeMar Hamlin's going to be at that game on Sunday, right?
Yes.
Like he's going to be there to pump up the crowd, all that
Yes.
stuff. Hey, great riff is here. Cowboys fan here. I think the 49ers will win, but I think the talent on both rosters is about even. The difference in this game is we have a choker at quarterback in Dak. That's why y'all will win.
Yeah. I like Dak, man. I like Dak. I think Dak's a great quarterback.
The interceptions have been very weird for him this year.
I think he takes a lot of heat. I think he's a very good quarterback. I think that he wants to win from the pocket and he's very mobile. I actually like Dak Prescott. Trust me, man. Like I hate the Cowboys, but I am not going to steer clear from giving them praise where they deserve it. Tony Pollard's great. I think Dak Prescott's great. I think CeeDee Lamb's pushing the conversation into the top 10 wide receivers in the league. I think Micah Parsons is a top 1-2 defensive end, whatever defensive weapon, because he lines up at corner, safety, referee, everything really like everybody says.
Have you seen him play safety? He plays everywhere on defense.
Yeah. Yeah. Everywhere. I mean, he also is defensive coordinator on certain plays, man, because Micah Parsons just moves around everywhere. That's sarcasm because of earlier in the show. But I'm a football fan before anything. So again, I wouldn't be able to have any sort of credibility if how much it is. I don't know. It probably is just a little bit without being able to give praise to the other team and say that they have really good players. I enjoy this game more than I enjoy, shitting on the Cowboys. So.
Jason, I know everybody's been waiting for my prediction on this. Sunday, 6 a.m. I think Wolverhampton Wanderers draw 2-2 with Manchester City. That's not they're going to get murdered by Manchester City. Mm-hmm. I know you're looking. I know you have the calendar circle.
Oh no, I actually had a prediction. I looked this up.
Oh, you looked up Manchester City versus the Wall. You knew this was coming. Okay, what you got?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I got to stick to the bit, man. At this point, look, I think that. I think that the Wolves are a scrappy team. They're going to try the best that they can, but Manchester City is probably going to walk away with this one. 3-1 is my score.
There was a bet at the start of the season that you could take in the UK. It was Erling Haaland goals versus Wolverhampton Wanderers goals in the whole season. Haaland has 22 goals in 18 games this season. I think Wolves have like 13 in their games. So yeah, it's not going to be pretty on Sunday. But I am looking forward to it. Paul says United's going to beat Arsenal. We love to see it.
Axel said Arsenal money line.
JKBG says, "What's Wolves? The Wolves DVOA."
We got to get Lombardi in here so he can let us know.
I need to dive into the advanced football. I'm a big baseball advanced analytics guy, but I haven't made the dive to football yet.
What's the kick velocity on some of these kicks? I think you need to start figuring that out.
We're
losing viewers fast. We're losing viewers fast.
That's my fault. I mentioned Premier League, Jason. I'm sorry. Next week we'll talk Bundesliga. Next week, okay? For you, Caesar, we'll talk Bundesliga.
Look,
Jason, I think that's it. I think when I bring up Premier League, I think that's the sign that we probably should get this going.
Yeah.
So Jason Aponte, hey man, enjoy Sunday, guys. It's gonna be another fun game.
That's what I wanted to get to. That's what I wanted to get to. Honestly, look, I get a little hype. It's Dallas. I don't play that shit from Cowboys fans talking crazy to me. I live on the East Coast. Cowboy fans are everywhere. They've been talking crazy to me on my Instagram. They've been talking crazy to me on my Twitter. They're talking crazy in my YouTube comments. I don't duck the smoke. So regardless of how this happens, I'm doing my post-game show. What I want to see from Cowboys fans is if you win, come pull up and gloat. If you lose, come pull up and say you were wrong. Yeah. I expect you to lose. Come pull up and say you were wrong. If you don't show up, you are showing how soft you are. I'm going to be here regardless. Regardless. If you don't pull up, you're soft. If you don't pull up, you're soft. I'm going to say it one more time. You're soft. Come here and gloat after you win, and I will let you gloat. I will say that they deserve it, but do not disappear. Do not disappear, because if you disappear, you are only sending up the things that we think about your soft-ass fan base. And yeah, I'm going to take one more shot before we leave because I want you to get mad. I want you to get real mad.
And also, too, if you show up on Sunday after a loss, that's how you become a legend of this channel, because we have Rams fans and Bears fans and Lions fans. And
I'm sick that Jim Everett's not here.
Yeah, I'm sad that Jim Everett's not here today. We needed him today. He would have gone at the Cowboy fans. But that's okay. Jim Everett will be back on Monday. Hey, Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners. And motherfuck the Dallas Cowboys.
We hate the Cowboys here on the Sprint Right Option podcast. We named the podcast after a play that happened against the Cowboys. Just throwing it out there.
Get cooked. Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.